Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we're going to see who Oogie Boogie is and how he returned. One of the most shocking, sinister, and absolutely mesmerizing stories in the universe of The Nightmare Before Christmas didn't originate on the big screen, but in a nearly forgotten corner of video games. A little-known title that officially serves as the direct sequel to Tim Burton's classic hides a secret that very few fans know. The return of the one and only Oogie Boogie, Jack Skellington's sworn enemy, whose shadow seemed to have vanished forever after the events of the original movie. If you remember how the story ended in the film, Oogie Boogie, that living sack full of bugs and pure malice, had kidnapped Santa Claus and Sally with the help of his inseparable minions, Lock, Shock, and Barrel. However, his plans fell apart when Jack, the Pumpkin King, confronted him in a final duel that culminated in his apparent destruction. His body, a mass of thousands of wriggling insects, fell into the depths of his underground lair, consumed by fire and molten metal. But, as in every good horror story, death was not the end. A small spark of darkness survived, hidden and patient, waiting for the perfect moment to rise again and spread chaos once more. In this video, we're going to unearth that forbidden story and explore a chapter that many fans don't even imagine. I'll show you, step by step, how Oogie Boogie managed to return from the beyond in a way that is both unexpected and disturbing. We'll discover his resurrection, his new and terrible powers, and how his insatiable thirst for revenge drove him to devise a plan more twisted than ever, aiming to defeat Jack Skellington and claim the throne of Halloween Town. But to fully understand his return, we must look back, all the way to the origins of it all. Before becoming the sack monster we all know, Oogie Boogie was something much older, a being that inspired fear even in the bravest hearts. The video game The Nightmare Before Christmas. The Pumpkin King functions as a direct prequel to the movie and reveals the early days of Jack as the ruler of Halloween. But it also opens a forgotten door, a passage to an ancient secret, the existence of an old human festival called Bug Day, an archaic celebration dedicated to crawling creatures and presided over by a monstrous being, the one and only Oogie Boogie. Over time, humans abandoned that tradition. Bug Day faded into history, and with it, the kingdom of insects, Bug Town, fell into oblivion. Everyone disappeared, except one. Oogie Boogie survived, carrying with him the entire colony of insects that had once been his subjects. Alone, he wandered aimlessly through the forest, where mysterious portals connect the different festive worlds, until he finally found one. The portal that led him to Halloween World. There, surrounded by rotten pumpkins, dancing shadows, and sinister laughter that seemed to rise from the darkness itself, Oogie realized he had found his new domain, his new opportunity to reinvent himself and seek revenge. It wasn't long before he encountered the mischievous Lock, Shock, and Barrel. Those three little demons were mesmerized by his presence. They admired him and feared him, because although Oogie seemed fun, charismatic, and even playful, everyone knew that beneath his smile hid a voracity capable of devouring anyone without the slightest mercy. From the old treehouse he improvised as a lair, Oogie began to weave a new and diabolical plan. His ambition, to conquer Halloween Town and transform it into something far darker, a corrupted version of the holiday he himself called Crawloween, a fusion of Halloween and Crawl, a festival of insects, chaos, and suffering. Unlike the other inhabitants of Halloween World, who scare for fun or tradition, Oogie Boogie was not satisfied with mere fear. He relished terror in its fullest expression, savoring it, living it. His goal was to dominate everyone, and if necessary, eliminate anyone who stood in his way. Thus began his offensive. First, he captured Dr. Finkelstein's assistant, and upon discovering her connection to Sally, he also took the young girl prisoner. Then, he unleashed a full-scale invasion of Halloween Town, Hordes of insects, mechanical traps, twisted contraptions, and a hellish arsenal emerged from his lair, a place where fire and molten metal were tools of torture and control. The city trembled under his threat, and for a moment, the Pumpkin King's crown seemed within Oogie Boogie's grasp. But even in the darkest darkness, there is always a ray of light. Jack was ready to face him once again, aware that this battle would not be like the last. Because Oogie hadn't just returned, he had evolved, and Halloween Town would never be the same again. Fortunately for all the inhabitants of Halloween Town, fate seemed to smile upon them at that crucial moment. Oogie Boogie, with his sinister laughter echoing through the darkest corners, failed to capture Jack Skellington in time. Just when everything seemed lost, Jack emerged from the shadows and fire, his silhouette outlined against a sky filled with flames and burning pumpkins. Every step he took was a defiance of chaos. Every glance, a reminder that the Pumpkin King would never surrender. What followed was an epic battle, a dizzying dance between fear and courage, between Jack's cleverness and Oogie's pure evil. The air trembled with the clash of wills, and the very ground seemed to vibrate to the rhythm of their confrontation. In the end, Jack's determination and wit prevailed. With one final masterful move, he managed to free Sally, whose eyes reflected gratitude and relief, while the citizens of Halloween rejoiced at her rescue. Oogie Boogie, defeated and humiliated, could only watch as his kingdom of chaos crumbled before the unyielding will of the Pumpkin King. Before leaving, Jack approached Oogie with that unique blend of firmness and elegance that always defined him. Every word he spoke carried authority, and a warning that chilled the blood. His defeat was not just a lesson, but a punishment that would mark him for the rest of his days. From that moment on, Oogie was confined to the deepest level of the old treehouse basement, his cursed lair. Any attempt to escape would mean facing Jack once more, and that would be his ultimate destruction. Even so, Jack refused to let victory be tainted by resentment. In his heart, hidden among pumpkins and cobwebs, there was still room for compassion. He understood that Lock, Shock, and Barrel, although accomplices to Oogie's schemes, didn't act out of true malice, but out of mischief. They were children driven by chaos, fascinated by danger and excitement, but not by hatred. Over time, even Oogie received a carefully measured gesture of forgiveness, one that allowed him, in a limited and supervised way, to take part in some of Halloween's festivities. In those rare appearances, Oogie manifested himself in hauntingly poetic ways. A giant shadow, cast against the full moon, a monstrous silhouette emerging among bats before dissolving back into darkness. But Jack, always watchful, knew that Oogie's obedience was only a facade. Behind that mask of deceit still pulsed the same corrupt, manipulative spirit as before, and, as always, Jack was right. When the moment we all remember finally arrived, the events of the nightmare before Christmas, Jack's distrust proved justified. The three mischievous children once again fell under Oogie's influence and revealed to him the existence of a different world, bright, joyful, filled with lights and music, a world called Christmas. They also spoke of someone who awakened Oogie's most twisted fascination, Santa Claus. Intrigued and driven by his lust for chaos, Oogie conceived a new plan: to take over Christmas and turn it into his personal spectacle of terror. His lair, now transformed into a grotesque casino of torture, filled with laughter and screams. Every roulette wheel, every dice roll, every trap was part of his perverse entertainment. But his fun was short-lived. Jack burst onto the scene, determined to stop him. The final battle was fierce. Every move counted. Every second could be fatal. And then it happened. A thread from Santa's sack got caught in a machine, revealing Oogie's true nature. His body unraveled, exposing the swarm of insects that composed him, each one falling into the burning smelter below. The last bug, crushed by Santa himself, marked the apparent end of the monster. Or at least, that's what everyone believed. Like every true villain, Oogie Boogie didn't understand the meaning of the end. His story, far from being over, was only beginning. The video game The Nightmare Before Christmas. Oogie's revenge reveals that his fall was not final. While the town celebrated his supposed demise, darkness was quietly taking shape in the forgotten corners of Halloween. As the years passed, Jack began to feel different. Restless, empty. Each repeated festivity felt like a shadow of what it once was. He realized he shouldn't replace Santa or any other holiday leader, yet he still felt something was missing. The routine of one Halloween after another had stripped the wonder from his kingly soul. He needed to feel that spark again. The thrill, the genuine fear, and the mystery that had once defined him. Driven by that longing, Jack set off on a new adventure. To rediscover the true spirit of fear, to reinvent Halloween, to make it grander, more creative, more alive. Before departing, he visited Dr. Finkelstein to share his plan. The doctor, excited, named the project the New Halloween and presented him with his latest invention. The Soul Robber, an ectoplasmic whip capable of taking multiple forms, perfect for exploring, defending, and creating new ways to scare. Dr. Finkelstein bid him farewell with advice and encouragement, urging him to be guided by inspiration and the unknown. But as Jack walked away from Halloween Town, something began to stir in the shadows, something that had never forgotten its humiliation, something that had waited patiently, gathering anger and cunning. Oogie Boogie was ready to return. His vengeance was not just a plan, it was the continuation of a nightmare. And this time, nothing would stop him. When Jack Skellington decides to set out in search of inspiration for his ambitious project, the New Halloween, he leaves behind a kingdom that, at first glance, seems peaceful. The streets glow with pumpkins and colorful lanterns, creatures rehearse their tricks and scares, and everything gives the impression of calm. Yet, in the air, a faint tension lingers. 3 shadows slip silently through alleys and rooftops. Lock, Shock, and Barrel. The mischievous trio has waited patiently for this moment, excitement bubbling beneath their masks. With Jack away and no one watching, they can finally fulfill the wish they've kept hidden for years, to bring back their true master, the fearsome Oogie Boogie. The video game The Nightmare Before Christmas. Oogie's revenge reveals a detail many overlooked after the original film. Oogie's defeat was never complete. During that final scene, when his sack burned in the smelter, not all of the insects that made up his body were destroyed. Some managed to escape, slipping through cracks and crevices, hiding beneath the ground and among the rubble. Santa Claus, without realizing it, hadn't truly finished him off. But the most disturbing part wasn't Oogie's physical form. It was his spirit. Jack had destroyed his body, but not his essence. His vital energy, a dark and resentful shadow, remained trapped beneath the old treehouse, waiting silently and patiently for his return. There, among cobwebs, dust, and the remains of broken toys, Oogie meditated, feeding his hatred and sharpening his cunning. Driven by devotion, curiosity, and their natural taste for mischief, Lock, Shock, and Barrel unearth the remains of Oogie's sack. They gather threads, collect surviving insects, and add new ones they had caught over years of secret exploration. With feverish patience, they stitch, stuff, and rebuild the king of bugs. Little by little, the shadows thicken, and a sinister laugh begins to echo through the old lair. Oogie Boogie has returned, more cunning, more ravenous, and more determined than ever. This time, he would not repeat his mistakes. Armed with the intelligence time had granted him and the blind loyalty of his 3 minions, Oogie unleashed a devastating assault on Halloween Town. The streets that once overflowed with life now turned silent and menacing. The townsfolk hid behind doors and windows, while spectral creatures patrolled every corner. Fear, once a game for all, now became real, tangible, threatening. But Oogie Boogie's ambition didn't stop at Halloween. Using festive portals, he expanded his domain into other worlds, recruiting ghosts, skeletons, and all manner of supernatural beings to his cause. Even Dr. Finkelstein fell under his control. Oogie replaced his brain with an artificial device, turning him into a builder of war machines and deadly traps, further strengthening his growing power. With Halloween Town under his total control, Oogie focused his obsession on a greater goal: not to rule one single holiday, but all of them. He captured the leaders of the other festive worlds and proclaimed himself the supreme king of celebrations. His vision was twisted and megalomaniacal: to merge every holiday into one, a realm where humans and monsters alike would worship him as a god, as he dictated the order and the fear. Amid the chaos, Sally, trapped and desperate, managed to send an enchanted letter to Jack. It was December 23rd. Her words crossed through the portals with the urgency of a winter wind. Oogie had returned, and Halloween Town desperately needed its king. Jack didn't hesitate for a second. He sealed the portal behind him and returned home, determined to save his world. But what he found upon crossing the gate was unrecognizable. The streets of Halloween Town lay shrouded in gloom. Lanterns flickered with a sickly light, and Oogie's laughter echoed through every alley. Infernal creatures patrolled the streets, warping the landscape Jack once knew. Without wasting a moment, the Pumpkin King charged into battle. The fight was titanic. Jack faced skeletons and specters, guardians drawn from other holiday worlds, and even his former allies, Lock, Shock, and Barrel. Though the pranksters remained loyal to Oogie, they couldn't match Jack's wit or strength. One by one, they fell, as Jack pushed his way toward the heart of the conflict. Finally, he confronted Oogie Boogie himself. This time, the villain had prepared a revenge far more cruel. Not only to destroy Halloween, but to annihilate Christmas as well. His plan was to invade Santa's world on December 25th and crush him with his own hands. But Jack arrived just in time, and a clash erupted that shook the foundations of both worlds. Foreseeing his possible defeat, Oogie revealed his new body, a gigantic sack made from fragments of different holidays, filled with surviving insects and pieces of everything he had conquered. Mega Oogie emerged, an abomination combining chaos, cunning, and pure evil. The battle reached a devastating climax. Jack and Santa Claus fought side by side, dodging traps, tearing down hordes of creatures, and unraveling the nightmare Oogie had spun. Finally, the sack tore apart, the insects fell, dead or dying, and Oogie screamed his final words of rage. No, not again. Peace returned to Halloween Town. Jack understood that his true mission wasn't merely to reinvent Halloween, but to protect it, to maintain the delicate balance between fun, fear, and tradition. He decided to stay in his world, alongside his people and Sally, ensuring that no threat would ever again disturb his kingdom. But even after this apparent victory, an unsettling detail remained. Though Oogie's body was destroyed and the insects were gone, his soul never fully vanished. His shadow persisted, hidden in the darkest corners, waiting for its next chance. Every night, when the moon shines over Halloween Town and the wind whistles through pumpkins and twisted branches, Jack keeps his gaze fixed on the shadows. Because those who truly understand fear know an undeniable truth: Oogie Boogie never gives up. And perhaps, just perhaps, somewhere beneath the moonlight, his laughter still echoes, waiting for his return.